Let's try one of the less expensive single barrels that I've seen out there. We're going to review Jim Beam Single Barrel, 108 proof. Found this at a store. It's not in every store in New Jersey. It's in actually pretty few, but every now and then I see them, and I found it today at a store at the lowest price that I've seen it, $39. So that's $39 plus tax. Generally, when I do see it, it's like in the low 40s plus tax. So $39 plus tax, I kind of figured was good. Figured I'd grab it. Had this once before, and I kind of put this in a category all its own. I think of this as an upgraded version of the Jim Beam White Label, which isn't that great, but certainly one of the most popular bourbons around. But I think of this as an upgraded version, single barrel version of the White Label. It's not quite the Black Label, and I'll explain why. So the White Label is aged about 4 years. This is aged about 5 to 6 years old, roughly, and it's at 108 proof, whereas the White Label is 80 proof. But it's not quite the Black Label, because the Black Label, which is now Jim Beam 7, is aged 7 years. Again, this is somewhere around 5 to 6 years old. So I wouldn't call it an upgraded, single barrel version of the Black Label. It's clearly the White Label. And it's also not part of the small batch collection of Jim Beam, which includes Knob Creek. At a future video, just for fun, I'm going to compare this against like a Knob Creek single barrel select, which is certainly a much higher proof, but it's a single barrel version of Jim Beam also, but in the small batch Knob Creek collection, this is just in the base Jim Beam line. So that's what this is. It's barrel number JB 000807975. Again, 108 proof. Got the standard Jim Beam mash bill, which does vary depending where you see it. So we're going to read it like this: 75 to 77% corn, 13% rye, 10 to 12% malted barley. I always see 13% rye, but depending where you look, I see 75 to 77 corn, 10 or 12% malted barley. But it is the Jim Beam mash bill. It is unfiltered, non-chill filtered, and again, 5 to 6 years old and 108 proof. So let's open it up. I know this is a screw top. Again, I've had this a long time ago, but I think this is honestly one of the lowest single barrel prices. I know we have the benchmark single barrel, which is like $28. So, this is a little bit more, but most single barrels are kind of north of this in price. Let's open it up, see what we got. No cork pop, screw top. Okay, we have this poured up. Now, I remember this being a little bit thin, certainly, for a single barrel. I always say that the Jim Beam White Label is thin. Not as much on the 7-year. I think it's a little bit, better developed. Also, not as much. This is, a little thin too. The Winter Reserve, love this. But for a single barrel, I think it is. That's what I remember. Let's take a look. Sort of medium color. Let's give it a nose. It's not, you can tell this is a little more proof, basically, than the, certainly the 80 proof White Label or the 90 proof Black Label. So you get a little more of that, maybe a little ethanol, but definitely tell there's more here. But it's kind of that same nose, just a little more potent. But some ethanol coming off this. Cheers. Yeah, so to me, I definitely get the Jim Beam, that Jim Beam flavor, but the Jim Beam flavor of the White Label. That part, not good, but an upgraded, more potent version of that. Does taste a little thin. Again, this is the single barrel, I call it, of the baseline Jim Beam. In my head, I'm small batch collection, with the exception of Basil Hated. I'll start again. The small batch collection, an upgraded version of this in the Jim Beam line. And certainly the Knob Creek single barrel, I certainly look at it in a higher category than this. But it's just interesting how it fits in, because it's a little more aged than the White Label, but not as much age as the Black Label. And in terms of price, the White Label is the cheapest. The Black Label, by me is like low 30s, just for comparison. This is 86 proof, but it's just similar to it's similar to the 7-year, or similar to in age to the old Jim Beam Black at around 6. This is actually a tasty pour, but it's just kind of in a category on its own. But I look at this as a higher proof, upgraded, a little more aged version of the White Label. So I'm just getting a little bit of heat, a little bit of high proof. in my head, and I'm going to put this right after this, I kind of find, certainly it's a lower proof, but I do find that the black label, the Jim Beam 7-year black is a little more approachable. It's also a little lower in proof. But this is, this is a single barrel, so everyone's different, including the, from the last time I've had this and the only other time. So I think this is okay. Not one of the best single barrels I've had, but I think it's okay. But honestly, I mean, in terms of price, for $39, it's fair for a single barrel. But I think if I'm going in the Jim Beam line, I find the Jim Beam 7-year. I certainly have said good things about it. Not great, but I think it's a tasty pour. You get that for low 30s, and it's honestly, it's aged more than this, even though the proof is 90 proof. It is certainly at least 7 years by the age statement. Or something like this is like low 30s as well. It's 86 proof, but it's tasty. I just find those are kind of maybe a little bit tastier than this. This is certainly more potent, but 7-year has more age and it's less money. It also has less proof. But something I wanted to get at that price, for 39 plus tax, I figured it was a buy. But every one of these is different. Curious if you've had these, what your thoughts are. Again, it's not available in every store by me. We will, just for fun, put this against a Knob Creek Single Barrel Select. It's higher proof, upgraded cousin. So we'll do that in a future video. In the meantime, cheers.